With other options on the market, like the ADM being exactly the same but 3 times the price, or the Radian offering you a bit more refinement but more than double the cost, the Griffin Mark II packs the most features in its class for the lowest cost. And I really believe the Mark II is such a smart buy when compared to other offerings in the same feature tier. There's just this huge feature to cost ratio, and I never felt like I got ripped off or like I was paying a huge premium for some logo to just pay for some fat guy's yacht. Hey, welcome back, my favorite bathrobe-wearing, non-beard trimming weirdos. Today I got a pretty badass gun review for you. And this is actually pretty rare because it comes feature-packed without bleeding your whole wallet dry, which is kind of refreshing when there's so many companies out there that just want to screw you over as bad as possible, like charging you $600 for a 4-inch block of metal. So today, that exciting rifle we'll tear into is the Griffin Armament Mark II with the 3.9-inch pin and welded barrel with the dual lock muzzle device. If you've been following along with our suppressor to your door videos, you'll also know that I have the Dual Lock 5, and we'll test all that out later and I'll show you all the different results. Honestly, I didn't want to have to zero like a billion times, so I just zeroed with the can on, so a lot of the shooting footage you're going to see is with the Dual Lock 5. I just wanted to focus on the entire Mark II platform during this video, just in case maybe you went a different suppressor route, but I will follow up with a video soon after this one talking about the whole suppressor and the whole dual lock system. Now, we also did a full video on the Griffin Ambi lower where we went over all the features of what makes that lower such a smart choice. But I've had a ton of mat time with the Mark II from going out to the range and using it during our DM-CQB class, so I've really had a lot of time with this, so I'm looking forward to this review. But before we get into it and tear everything all up, let's take a moment, thank today's sponsor. Today's video was sponsored in part by Javelin Concepts. Javelin engineers the future of how gear is designed, from the insane comfort of the Ajax 2.0 to the innovative features of their placard system. Their cutting-edge equipment gives users the edge, all the way from home defense to the operative out in the field. Plus, their MSR cummerbund gives an absolute middle finger to all those horrible bungee lashing cummerbunds that were designed in like 1968. And as always, you can use discount code TLDCO over at javelinconcepts.com. Love me some Javelin Concepts and everything they do and all the support they give us. Now, let's take a moment and talk about all my biases. From dealing with them at SHOT Show and other events, they've proven to be extremely genuine in what they stand for in their entire mission in the firearm space. So I say that to say I probably am pretty biased because it's rare to find kind and normal people in the firearm space, particularly a company that's not trying to screw you over either. But the Mark II is gonna go through the same tests as we always say that everyone else is gonna go through, so the results are gonna be what the results are gonna be. I'm also probably the worst shill ever, but as always, I implore you to watch other content than just mine and watch other reviews so that you can be the most educated consumer possible. Now we'll go out and do some accuracy testing and see how it all performs, but before we do that, let's get it on the bench and take a look at it from muzzle to stock. Starting at the front, we have our now very dirty pin and welded muzzle device. This is the Dual Lock Stealth Flash Suppressor. It uses a stainless steel and DLC coating to extend the life of the metal. We also see the dual lock system that allows for easy lockup just by screwing it on and having like 60 locking positions after it's tightened on. I have the Dual Lock 5 and the Blast Shield, but YouTube gets super pearl clutchy if you show screwing things together. I don't get it. God forbid we don't all lose our hearing. It doesn't make any sense. Whatever, it works by screwing the suppressor or blast shield on, then the locking collar goes over the splines so you have both the screw on and the locking system holding it in place. Hence the dual lock. And there's also like 60 splines on there so that you can have a consistent lockup. So the idea then is that you have little to no POI shift. I did test it quite a bit, and even without anything installed on the front end, there was pretty nice flash suppression. I do think the Blast Shield takes things up a level significantly and adds a bit of a fireball, but I do actually recommend you going that route even if you don't do a suppressor. Plus, I think it makes the whole thing look cool as hell. I really did find that with the Blast Shield, it was a lot more pleasant to shoot to because it's directing all that blast forward, even if it's making some pretty sweet fireballs now. Moving down, we have our 13.9 medium contour 416R nitride barrel. The medium contour of the barrel is designed to run cooler longer and uses a mid-length gas system. Now, I already know some people on Reddit go absolutely nuts if it's not chrome lined, but we'll take it out and test all the accuracy at the range. The chrome lining is generally for automatic fire anyway, and depending on how it's made, you can lose out on some accuracy with the chrome lining, kind of that trade-off for accuracy and that extended barrel life. Nitrided barrels, on the other hand, can be a good bit cheaper and more accurate. So it's a trade-off for sure. We'll go test it. Just calm down, Ronnie. We'll see in a minute. But next we have our low-profile handguard that has these reinforced internal ribs to give the whole handguard some additional strength. I'll say it's pretty solid because I probably smashed it into like 20 different door jams during our CQB class. The low profile in the name means you have slots at the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions. So you may have to think about mounting solutions for specific lights and laser combos. Like the D-Ball D2 has some super odd shapes, so those larger handguards can sometimes be a little bit easier to connect everything up when you have those weirder shapes and you're trying to get it all compact and put together. But there are so many adapters and pivots for lights now that I found it to be a non-issue. Also included are the rail shield and grip, and I picked to have mine in FDE. You also see the grip and shield have the same frag-inspired design on both these forward grips and the pistol grip. Now, I don't know if I love these, I'm kind of a rail scales fanboy, but it was pretty nice to have all these already installed and just comes with the whole platform. I mean, you kind of have this whole setup that you pull out of the box and it's pretty much ready to go. You don't have to search around for more parts just to get it semi-functional, which I think is a really, really big pro for this setup. Moving to the rear, we have a standard mil-spec upper on the Mark II that has some small upgrades inside. The BCG is standard mil-spec with a better finish, which gives you the same standard design, but just with some better lubrication. I will say that it seems like the Griffin parts are built to a little bit of a tighter tolerance, and the parts actually wear and mate together, so you have a tighter fit, and you don't have this larger gap between parts like I've seen on some other setups. We'll talk about this in testing, but it means your first few shots may not cycle or lock back as the parts are wearing into position. I just want you to be aware that I had this for the first 5 or 10 rounds as things work themselves into position. After that, though, it was all gravy, and we'll go over it a little bit more when we talk about reliability, and we'll see how it does out on the actual range. Along with the BCG, you have some other upgraded parts with the suppressor normalized charging handle. I have the Snatch Gen 2 here that is an improvement over the Gen 1 design to give a tighter fit and seal out more gas. The Gen 2 also angles the port 30 degrees forward instead of directly out the side. Griffin also said that the Gen 2 of their charging handle was 90% more effective at eliminating gas. So I'd like to hear what you guys all think down in the comments when we move into the shooting footage. I think some of it's even in slow-mo. I'm a lefty and this has no adjustable gas block, so I think we're definitely gonna be able to see any of the gas coming out and shooting me right in the eyes. We'll see though. Now for the lower, I've already showed you this a ton and I recommend you watch our full video on it, but we see a 60-degree flared magwell, oversized takedown pins, right side bolt catch and mag release, along with the same on the left side, and an ambi safety to give you an insanely featured lower. And I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. This is the lower that I want on just about everything. There are also a lot of other ambi lowers on the market that cost like 3 times as much and do the exact same thing, or do it even worse. If you get one thing from this video, just know the Mark II lower is fantastic. Trying to get back on the rails though, we also see the included FDE featureless grip in the same frag pattern to help complete the whole theme, along with an included mil-spec trigger. The trigger is just mil-spec, it's nothing fantastic. I even have another trigger like an ELF SC ready to go in this setup, but I wanted to test everything just as it comes out of the box so you can see how it performs before we start upgrading things. In case you're wondering though, no, it's mil-spec, I don't love it, and the creep on that trigger is an absolute pain in the ass when you're trying to shoot accurately. But it would be cool if the Mark III version upgraded this trigger. Now there's also a hidden gem inside the buffer weight also. Here we see the weight is somewhere between an H2 and an H3 buffer, with the weights actually offset just slightly. So there's a small delay in the firing operation. Now, this is a bit of a hidden gem because it works really, really well while seeming kind of insignificant. The idea is to give a small delay in movement so it has a longer overall dwell time, and I definitely did find that it resulted in a softer shooting system. Moving to the rear, we see the Griffin stock that matches our FDE theme. The stock is easy to adjust and has an integrated QD, along with the Maritime receiver extension that has drain holes for water, so the buffer could operate properly even if it was filled with water. Well, that's pretty exciting. Now we can play with this in the pool. I kid, but overall, I really do like the furniture. It's pretty nice and well done, and I like that it all comes together. And I also like the idea that it's all simple to switch out. If you want to do something else or you have different preferences, it'd be easy to just change everything. But that's the whole rifle from head to toe. Let's get into our tests. Now, thanks to the Jackal being an absolute hoss, the test that got added in was weight. That's the first one, so let's go do that one. I apologize for not measuring this earlier, as I now have everything zeroed and fully configured with the dual lock silencer and have an overall weight of about 10.5 pounds. On the Griffin website, they have the naked weight listed at like 6 pounds, 13 ounces. It's a bit loaded with crap now, but even with the optics and the lights and the lasers and everything, it's really pretty lightweight and the whole thing feels nice and balanced. I didn't have any issues with it though, even with me having horrible form during our super long CQB class, so I didn't think weight was really a problem. Now though, let's move into our next category, and that's reliability and break-in. As noted, the Mark II is built a bit tighter to spec than most rifles, so expect a small break-in window as the parts are mating to one another. Outside of the break-in period though, I had not a single failure of any sort across multiple different ammo types or grains. I guess I really didn't think about that, but yeah, not one failure at all. So I'm very curious from you all if you think that tighter tolerance and that whole kind of break-in mating process actually increases reliability or not. I have no idea, but it certainly seemed like it. Okay, so the next test is a lot of fun, and this is the overall shooting feel and recoil. I mentioned this earlier, but the staggered impact of the buffer weight does something interesting to increase the dwell time for just that split second of a moment to give an overall softer shooting feel. It was slight, but certainly noticeable compared to the other standard direct impingement systems. I will say that the gas in my face was a bit more than normal, but it seemed to get cleaned up when I added either the blast shield or the Dual Lock 5 suppressor, which is kind of odd now that I think about it. Whatever though. Moving to the next test, and this one is my favorite on this system, the controls. Here the Griffin Mark II shines. The left and right side ambi controls in smart positions make it easy work for reloads, manipulate the safety, or work malfunctions. From class to range, I found these are the controls I want on every single rifle configuration I own. Like the Griffin ambi lower on my IWI SPR, that would be absolutely insane. I need to just go on Griffin's website and order another lower and make that happen. Okay, so the next test is the mag drop test. Why are we testing mag? Oh, it's from that Carmel polymer lower. Well, here there are no issues due to the magwell being mil-spec. The flare makes it nice for easy reloads. Everything works great. It's no big deal. Interestingly, I did hear that HRF Concepts is making a magwell extension for this lower, so that's pretty exciting also. Now let's move into our next test that I don't wholly love, and that's the trigger test. Now, as I've mentioned a couple times now, the Mark II comes with a mil-spec trigger, and it's fine, but I think it's one of the weakest points of this whole platform. It's just kind of blah, where everything else has some sort of awesome special tweak to it. The mil-spec trigger wasn't great or bad, it's just mil-spec. It's fine, it's mil-spec, I can shoot it, I just really want to swap it out as soon as possible. Let's move out to the 100-yard though, and let's test some accuracy and see what this thing can do. For this round, Croak actually gave me some rounds to test, so I've never used these before, but these are the AAC 77 grain OTMs. I normally use the S&B 77 grain, so we'll see what results we get. I shot the first group of 5 at 100, aiming at the center of the target. This probably wasn't the wisest, as the center dot is fairly large, and in the end, I ended up getting about a 2 mil spread. I did this a second time and used the smaller circle at the bottom as a tighter reference, and this time things turned out a lot better at around 1.1 MOA. I'm kind of surprised. I almost got sub-MOA results with that god-awful mil-spec trigger creep, but if you take your time with this, you can probably get around 1 MOA, but if you just zoom through it like a moron like I did, probably more like 2 MOA. Realistically, I think it's falling with most all the other barrels we've seen in that 1.25 and 1.5 MOA. And I think this whole platform pairs pretty much perfectly with like a 2 MOA red dot. adding a 2 MOA red dot also means that sub MOA doesn't really matter, and adding a scope onto a setup like this can kind of, I don't know, indicate some sort of brain damage. Wait, I have a scope on this platform. But let's test it anyway. We took the Mark II out to the 600-yard range and had no issues hitting out from 330 yards, then moving out to 430 and even 600 yards. The lighter and more nimble setup just worked great on the Fatboy Elevate with the Levitate head to quickly swap between targets and easily engage with the reticle smart markings. As a bit of a secret, you can also use discount code TLDCO on any of the Fatboy tripods if you want to do all the cool guy stuff. But I do want to say that hitting that 430-yard target that's like the size of a dinner plate is pretty tricky with a 13.9 setup. And I think that challenge hitting the smaller target at a longer distance highlights what I'm saying about how I think this platform is better suited for a red dot, because at about 450 yards, it seemed like the bullets were going transonic, and I was just losing a lot of that consistency. I did test the S&B 77 grain that I normally use, and they seemed to be a little bit more consistent because they had just a little bit more added velocity onto the bullet. But I still stand by that I think this 13.9 would be awesome in a red dot setup with like a 50-200-0. And for my CQB class, I did exactly that. I had a T2 mounted on one of those 1.9, 2.2 Unity setups or whatever it is, and it worked just absolutely great. So I thought accuracy was overall good. Just make sure to understand your limitations on velocity with a shorter barrel length. All right, though, let's move into the next one, and this is a super fun category, and this is cool factor. The Mark II has its own unique look that just sets itself apart. With the FDE accents and frag-accented grip and handguard, you have a rifle that's simplistic yet unique, giving you a high-end product that stands out in the crowd without breaking the bank. Shooting the Mark II at the range with the can and the night vision and all the crazy setup was definitely a head-turner. I had like every other person asking what it was and saying it's just an AR. Well, it isn't wholly accurate with all the stuff that Griffin's got packed in here. The Mark II was definitely interesting to a lot of people, and everyone seemed to be interested in it, so I guess I have to say it's got the cool guy factor in spades. Now let's move into our very last test, and that's going to be the comparative market. With other options on the market, like the ADM being exactly the same but 3 times the price, or the Radian offering you a bit more refinement but more than double the cost, the Griffin Mark II packs the most features in its class for the lowest cost. And I really believe the Mark II is such a smart buy when compared to other offerings in the same feature tier. There's just this huge feature to cost ratio, and I never felt like I got ripped off or like I was paying a huge premium for some logo to just pay for some fat guy's yacht. But it's got so much cool stuff going on, and those are all our tests, so what are my final thoughts? I think the Mark II just nails it where it counts to give you a soft shooting overall system with one of the best ambi lowers on the market. With the included accented grips and covers, along with some of the smartest silencer attachment systems to give you an insanely huge bang for your buck. I feel like at this point we need to open up an ambi rifle ranking system, and the Mark II absolutely nails the top spot. In reality, it felt like I was getting a ton more features and options than a standard AR, but just paying this small premium more. The best part is if you don't like certain bits of it, you can just change them out. And I made some changes to try out some different parts and see how they performed. I think a lot of people really like the frag design, included handguard and grips though, but the core base of the Mark II is done so well that you can just upgrade around it or just use what comes with it. It still works great. Stay tuned though as we dive even deeper into the Griffin ecosystem as we test out the Dual-Lock 5 suppressor and the blast shield. I really did find that I liked the blast shield a lot, and it came without all the drama of a suppressor. Thankfully though, the whole Griffin suppressor to your door program made the whole silencer ordering process pretty easy too. But I hope this video on the Griffin Armament Mark II 13.9 pin and welded dual lock rifle was useful in your purchasing decisions. I want to say thanks to all of our YouTube and Patreon members. You make it possible we can test out all this cool stuff and go out to the range and actually see if it's worth your money. And I want to say thanks to everyone that likes, comments, and subscribes. Comment down below what is the best ambi rifle on the market. I want to test it next. All right, everybody, Walsh out. Well, that's exciting. Oh, it's always something. The clouds keep coming and going, and waiting and shuffling. these clouds. Like, there's teeny tiny little boob clouds going across. That it's light and it's dark every 2 seconds. Tell you right now, there's been a lot of airplanes, there's been a lot of clouds, which has been great. It is hot out here. I'm sweaty and wearing these amazing, actually, I love this carrier. This is the Javelin Concepts Ajax 2.0. I have the RMA 1003 plates in here, which are like 5 pounds total. It's super nice. Plus, if you haven't played with this, these Fat Boy tripods are absolutely bonkers. I just love the way these work. I have to learn a little bit more. Maybe we'll do some content on how to shoot from tripods because I think I need to learn some techniques. So keep an eye out for that. But so far, super impressed. These are really cool if you're looking for some good tripods. Other than that, I think that's all I got. What am I working? Oh, you guys voted that you wanted to see bags next. So top 3 plate carrier bags is what I'll be working on next. I think I'm gonna hide some Agilite stuff in there too. Keep an eye out. All right, everybody. You guys are great. Bye.